Zone coverage, week 17. For Ricky, I'm Aaron. How we doing today, buddy?
It's a Tuesday.
It is a Tuesday. It's
It's
been a weird Tuesday.
it's a weird Tuesday. We have to deal with elections in January, and I'm ready to talk about football.
Yeah, I had a weird Monday too. Felt off all day yesterday.
Yesterday did not feel like a Monday, but it felt like the Mondayest of Mondays.
Yeah,
And I don't know what happened.
I don't know. NFC North. After that anticlimactic intro.
We digress.
Vikings 37, Lions 35. Lions missed a 2-point conversion in the last possession, to tie the game. I'm not surprised. I mean, it would have been nice to end the season with a victory. But honestly, in this game in particular, I'm more upset for Minnesota.
How come?
Seeing 7-9, 7-9 they finish up. Bears 8-8, and Bears made the playoffs.
The Vikings wouldn't have made the playoffs regardless.
No, but I mean, if a couple things go the Vikings' ways in different games this season, the Vikings could have been a little bit closer.
Okay.
And to be fair, same thing with the Bears, same thing with the Lions. That's really how football goes. But
if we should be upset for any team, it should not be for the Vikings. It should not be for the Bears, even though they made it. It should not be for the fucking Giants. It should be for Miami.
We'll get there. Green Bay 35, Bears 16. Green Bay clinches home field advantage. Not surprising.
You didn't even want to talk anything about the Lions game.
What is there to say? Jones had a good game.
I mean, okay. Justin Jefferson got a rookie record.
Yep,
he had 1,400 receiving yards, and he passes Anquan Bolden in 2003 for a rookie record in receiving yards. I mean, Stafford hit 4,000 passing yards for the 8th time in his career. There are only 3 other seasons like that in Lions history.
Yeah, I think
two fun things. But
I think I'm just so deflated by talking about a Lions loss after a Lions loss, where it's like Justin Jefferson, awesome, incredible stat right there. And it didn't even occur to me until you brought it back up. I saw that this morning, and I was like,
next season we should bring the Lions up later and mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, so we can end the show on a depressing note.
No. I'm not saying put it at the end. I'm saying just mix it up.
Green Bay 35, Bears 16. Green Bay clinches home field advantage. Bears clinch a playoff spot. We'll talk more about that later. One of the few teams to clinch a playoff spot with a loss.
I don't really get this.
Yeah,
it's not a scenario that came into my mind at all. It's not one that I spent a lot of time looking at. Oh, they could make it, because obviously they shouldn't have made it. The Bears are 0-6.
We're not going to discuss playoffs today. Or we're not going to discuss like the playoff games and our predictions in this show.
We'll talk what games are coming up. Mm-hmm. Because we want to make sure we don't forget that we recognize that there are games happening on Saturday and Sunday.
We will not forget.
We're gonna talk on Thursday about what we think is going to happen. We've been putting some polls out there on Twitter, trying to get a lot more feedback and have a more fan-centric conversation.
Go check those polls out. Go check us out on Twitter. Follow us.
Let us know how ridiculous they are, because let me tell you, some of them are ridiculous.
Where can they follow us, Ricky?
Oh, how on earth did I forget this? Oh my Lord. Okay. Twitter, TikTok at TheRunnerUpHQ. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify. I assume that's where you're listening to us. So keep doing it. Download, favorite.
If you're watching us on YouTube,
just make sure it's a good one.
You look great. Thanks for being here. Green Bay's good. Green Bay's really good. There's not much more to say about that either. That's the NFC North, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, so the other thing, the other reason the Bears should not be in the playoffs, they have beat one team with a winning record. One. Tampa Bay. Why? How?
I know it's we'll talk more about Arizona here shortly, but I know it's had something to do with the win. They won the majority of games that were like closer mutual
Well,
competitors or something like that.
it's based off of comparable or the teams that they've played.
Mhm.
So if you played the same team and you played them twice and you won once, and the other team played them one time and lost, you have the better win percentage over the similar teams.
Yep, and I believe that's where Chicago snuck in.
Correct.
Do you think Chicago is better than Arizona?
No, I also don't think Arizona is great though.
I think it's closer than people would think, but yeah,
I think Arizona is the better of the two teams. I don't think the Bears deserve to be in the playoffs.
I have no issue with them being in the
Not that they didn't
playoffs.
earn it, because they
I think
clearly
yeah,
have earned it.
I think the Bears are fine being where they are. But I would agree that I do think Arizona is the better of the two. Green Bay 13-3, Bears 8-8, Vikes 7-9, Lions 5-11.
Woo,
Uh,
woo.
yeah. Seattle 26, Niners 23,
There's
Rams
not a whole lot
18.
to say about this game.
No,
There's not a whole lot.
I think Metcalf, has the most receptions for a Seattle receiver in history, something
Nope.
like that.
Metcalf has the most receiving yards in a single season at 1,303. Tyler Lockett has the record for teams in reception at 100. Russell Wilson is the first player in Seahawks history with 40 passing touchdowns in a single season, and he is the fourth non-first round QB in NFL history to do so. There's your
Rams
fun fact.
18, Cardinals 7. I'm This is the game where I think of the Bears over the Cardinals. Because if you look at Bears versus Packers and Cardinals versus Rams, one of those is significantly more of a challenge than the other.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And Arizona could have got that playoff spot had they won.
So here's the interesting statistic. I was talking about the Bears having been 0-6 all time versus the Packers in week 17. But the Cardinals against the Rams since 2007, 0-8. They're both pretty shit against each other.
Yeah, no, it's that whole division.
You also have to look at the fact that the Rams are without their normal starting quarterback. John Wolford is playing in his first NFL game ever.
Mm-hmm.
His last start as a quarterback was in the AAF with the Arizona Hotshots 644 days before this Sunday.
That's my Arizona team right there. Forget the Cardinals. So it's no secret I'm not a huge supporter of the West.
I thought you loved the Rams.
LA, I'm pulling for you this weekend. Genuinely.
Anyways,
to say neither of these were convincing wins.
No.
The Rams was more of a convincing win than the Seahawks.
Well,
they're playing each other.
I expected the Seahawks game to be as close as it was since the 49ers are getting healthier, and that has been their downfall all year is injuries.
Interesting thing looking at the records. Seattle 12-4, LA 10-6, Cardinals 8-8, Niners 6-10. That's surprising to me. I didn't think about the Rams, but like with the Niners, just with all the injuries they've dealt with this year, I didn't think they'd have 6-10 is hardly a playoff contending team. But that's second place in the NFC East.
You think that would be more of a Falcons record rather than
that's nothing bad
49ers.
About the Niners. That's just with all the injuries they've had this year.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with them as a team. But like they could have won the NFC East nearly. Or they could be upset with Philadelphia.
They probably would have won the NFC East if they would have been playing 2 games against each of those teams rather than playing the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Cardinals twice each.
Tampa Bay 44, Atlanta 27. I was hoping for something different, but we both knew how this was going to go.
It is absolutely zero shock to me Um, especially when I'm looking at the Falcons season this year. They have lost 6 of their last 7, and they had won the 3 of the previous 4. I mean, it's not their year, first and foremost. They have had one of the most, I would say, unlucky seasons I've ever seen when it comes to comebacks against them.
Hmm.
Um, Tampa Bay has shown up this season to what many people expected that they would actually produce. Their offense had 492 points this year, which is the most in a single season in their franchise history. And Tom Brady is now the 5th quarterback in NFL history with 40 or more passing touchdowns in multiple seasons. He is in good company with Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, and Dan Marino.
Yeah,
Um,
there's no disputing how good Brady is. Yeah, there's
I don't know. I don't know if it's showing how good he is, or rather how good his surrounding players are, because
okay.
he's not a quarterback that has ever had like amazing offenses. He's had a bunch of people that are above par and not a whole lot above that. And I don't know if this shows that he's a great quarterback or just he knows how to get rid of the ball and get it to people who are open
I
rather
think an
than
argument could be made that some of Brady's best receivers throughout his career have been guys who have been able to replicate anything without Brady.
yeah.
Look at a guy like Chris Hogan, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not a shot at Chris Hogan, but when you play for the Jets and they have their own quarterback struggles, it's you're not. And you look at Amendola, or not Danny Amendola, well Danny Amendola. But you look at
Danny Amendola, Julian
Edelman.
Edelman.
That's what because I meant to say Edelman. I haven't done enough research on Edelman this year. I'm not sure if he's been hurt all season or
He's
if they just
injured.
okay.
He's had an
Um,
injury. I want to say it was a knee.
sure. Um, but then you also look at this week. Good passes to Godwin. Good passes to Mike Evans. Good passes to Antonio Brown, and it's looking things are starting to click at the right time for Tampa. Um, because I know back in our first episode of the show, it might have been our first, might have been our second. Uh,
We
we
were not confident in their
we were
ability
not
to.
sure. We were not sure about Tampa, but that's also when if Ronald Jones was hurt, Fournette was healthy. If Fournette was hurt, Jones was healthy. When Gronk was just starting to be used, it's Tampa Bay has been weird all year.
Gronk is another weird altogether.
Hmm.
I I don't know why he decided to come back. Um, I mean, it can't be for the money, but he's had a very marginal showing, if that's how I could even put it.
Sure, it's I think I mean we'll talk more about this in a little bit. Oh no, we don't have to. We can talk about it now.
We make the rules here.
There's nobody, no guns to our heads here. I don't think anybody is expecting what they've gotten out of Gronk this year to be what they'd be getting out of Gronk. I know when the season was starting, Brady and Gronk, everybody's making jokes that it's not going to be anything. It's just can't rehash the past like that.
Yeah.
And for a good while into the season, they were right. Gronk was useless. There's no other way to put it. If we're talking strictly second half, Gronk could be a Pro Bowl, member.
I guess.
Um,
I'm gonna pull up some stats because I want to know what his overall production has been.
sure. I know it seemed like we were never hearing anything about Gronk, and then we were suddenly hearing a little bit more about Gronk than we were used to again.
But okay, yes, I agree with that. So production wise this year, I mean, he's played in all 16 games. He has 45 receptions, 623 yards, 7 touchdowns. And when I look at his last year in New England, he played in 13 games. He had 2 more receptions, 50 more yards, and 4 less touchdowns. But honestly, I'm looking at each of his seasons. He's had 4 seasons over 1,000 receiving yards. He's had 5 seasons early in his career where he's gotten 10 or more touchdowns. And it's just, I mean, very, very inconsistent.
I think I agree, but I think we also have to really consider the fact that Gronk was not used early this year.
Yeah.
There were games where he made to get 1 target, 2 targets, and you have to think if the way they've been playing him lately, and they've been using that all season,
It'd be a
this
much
could be a very,
different,
very different season for Gronk.
and he might just not have been ready.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that could literally be it. He was not in the right shape, not in the right player's mindset to be utilized yet.
Saints 33, Panthers 7. Yeah, whatever.
Breeze
my
has
thought.
97. He has 97 career games with 3 or more passing touchdowns now.
Yeah.
Will he get to 100 in his career? It sure depends.
It really depends.
Because I don't think he's coming back next year.
That's a topic for another show, some may say.
Partially.
Carolina, I don't know. We know my thoughts. My issue is not Carolina. It's your current quarterback should not be your current quarterback.
I think there's more to it than that, but yes. But yes.
I think, sure, we've said the same thing about the Jets all season. Yeah. There's more to it. But if I had to pinpoint one thing for Carolina going into the offseason, your number one must-fix spot is getting let it be known, anytime I really go hard on somebody in our show, I'm talking about this season and this season only. I don't know Teddy Bridgewater as a person.
You've never met him? He doesn't come over on Sundays?
Apparently no. I'm always somewhere else. I couldn't care less about what he's done in his past. Yeah. We did it 2 weeks ago, where this is actually a career year for Bridgewater. Statistically, this is a career year for him.
That sure doesn't show much.
I hope next year when he, is back up for Taysom Hill that he plays well. It wouldn't shock me. I have nothing against Teddy Bridgewater, but you are not the guy for Carolina.
No, and I don't think there was much argue with that. I think like when we compare the Panthers to the Jets, the big difference is Sam Darnold's ceiling is so much higher than Teddy Bridgewater. Like his ceiling is the second floor, or Bridgewater's ceiling is the second floor for Darnold. Mm-hmm. There's no real comparison. Granted, you neither might get to their ceiling. And
we'll talk Jets a little bit more later.
Well, we'll talk more about quarterbacks later.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with that. NFC East.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Real quick, before we jump into the NFC East. Falcons are 4-12 to finish out the year.
Yeah.
It's just a couple weeks ago we were sitting here 4-9 thinking like, they're not 4-9. NFC East. Hey, Giants, you got to win. Good job. 23-19 over Dallas. Should have a great week, right? That's no better way to end your season than on a win, huh?
Oh, but might as well have a win and still be pissed off at another team.
What sense does that make, Ricky? Why would you be upset with another team if you win?
Well, it almost as if they didn't do something in the middle of the season to make their lives easier. This is their first time they've scored 20 points or more in the last 6 games.
Isn't this their first win in the last 4? Something along those lines.
Yeah. But it's almost as if you score 20 points in a game, you place yourself in a better position to win games and then place yourself in a better potential to make the playoffs.
A prime example of scoring 20 points or more, you might win a game. Washington 20, Eagles 14.
I was gonna say, look at one game down in this division.
Because there's really no use in not talking about these games together. Washington clinches the division at 7-9. Giants 6-10, Dallas 6-10, Eagles 4-11-1. Had Washington lost, Giants would have clinched the division. Had Giants and Washington lost, Cowboys would have clinched the division.
Hilarious. Eagles, I'm sorry, you just didn't have a spot. But they got to sit their starting quarterback and really.
They've been sitting once for weeks. So I don't know. Oh, you mean the Hurts kid? Gotcha.
Yeah. That young
future. Gun. Yeah. No, I love Jalen Hurts. Super Sudfield comes in, and to get because Peterson wanted to get a look at him because the whole Philadelphia quarterback situation is really up in the air. They don't have a future guy going forward, so might as well play your third stringer for a little while.
Who knows what's happening there? Let's be honest.
Okay, so. As a football fan, I'm supposed to be upset, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Cool.
Well, so what I want to know, the Eagles know they are out of contention. What good does it give them to try to lose a good draft spot? They are looking to get the 6th draft pick.
Yep, would have been 9th had they won.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Granted, that's 3 spots, and you still might be able to get the man you wanted in number 1. But let's also be realistic and think, okay, we don't need this game. Why do we bother? Why put out Jalen Hurts when he's only played in 4 games this year? And he could tear his ACL and be done for his career in a game that means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's a lot of actual reasons to do what the Eagles did. Draft pick aside.
Yes.
You were half of your regular starters were already not playing. I know Miles Sanders was out. I believe Jeffrey was out. Some offensive linemen were out.
I think draft pick is the straw that breaks the camel's back, though, because you're losing potential from, yes, 3 people can mean a diamond in the rough to a bust.
So my thing is I don't like what they did because I'm one of those people play to win the game. That's my mindset. That being said, though, I'm not upset by it. It doesn't.
It mostly sucks that what time of day this game was. Had this been a 1 p.m. game, it wouldn't have mattered. No one would really have
switched this with Bears Packers. Nobody even knows.
Exactly. But you make this game because it is what matters for the division, because it is the weirdest division in fucking football.
People have been joking all damn season. The Jags and the Jets been taken on purpose to get good picks, and then Eagles do it for 1 game, and they're hell's loose. But I'm done talking about that because it seems like you and I have the same opinion.
The only thing I do want to say that this is either it has to be a kudos or it's just that's a very interesting thing to start is first, Washington is the 3rd team in NFL history to make the playoffs with under 500 win percentage. Both teams that have done it in what?
Which team?
Washington.
How many teams?
3.
Wow.
Both teams that have done it so far have won a playoff game. Also, Alex Smith is the first Washington quarterback to win 5 straight starts since the 11th through 17th weeks in 2012 with RG3.
And I did want to mention that because I'm done talking about the Giants and Eagles. If there's one
And
team,
Dallas.
yeah, I was about to say if there's one team I feel a little upset for, it's Dallas. But I
Above
don't.
all
They
else,
still lost.
above the Giants, yes, Dallas.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. Alex Smith. So 5 straight wins. I believe he started maybe 6 or 7 games this year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a 5-2 record on a man with 1 leg. Like Washington, Washington deserves this playoff spot. We were talking earlier about the Bears not deserving it, Arizona not deserving it. And yeah, a team with a 500 record doesn't look great. But when you look at what the team's become, 5 and for sake of this 2 with Alex Smith, if they start the season that way, chances are they're not finishing 7 and 9. Chances are week 17, the Eagles tanking literally doesn't matter.
You're looking realistically at either a 9-7 team or a 11+ win team.
Mm-hmm. Steelers 22, Browns 24.
Jesus.
Cleveland, you did it. You did it, you son of a bitch. Oh, had me worried for a minute. Had me worried. Not much to talk about in this game since we're just going to see it again next week.
So I would say the thing that matters the most is that Mason Rudolph is the one who played, and the Pittsburgh's defense could not handle Nick Chubb.
And we talked earlier. I'm not sure if there's anybody else who was missing from the start for Pittsburgh. Rudolph had a fine game. He didn't play poorly. He played fine. Couple
he had a pretty
giveaways.
Good game, to be honest.
Realistically, I don't know if Ben would have given much of a better performance, especially with how Pittsburgh's been playing lately. People were talking Pittsburgh could go 16-0. This team that's now 12-4, after going 11-0.
I thought it was 10.
Was it 10? It doesn't matter.
It was just 10.
Doesn't matter. They could still be knocked out first round.
No, I know, and I know we don't want to talk a whole lot about this, but I do not think the Steelers will win this week. Honest to God, I think your better option is still keeping Mason Rudolph in. I think Ben is ready to retire. I think there are a lot of quarterbacks who should be ready to retire. I am not impressed by any stretch of the imagination by the Steelers team.
Yeah, the defense has looked good sometimes. That's about it for me. And I know we're not going to talk much about it, but since you and I kind of have the same opinion about the Steelers Browns this week, I had the Browns winning this. I said last week the Browns are winning this week, and then seeing this last week, I'm like, oh, cool, the Browns are winning again.
Yeah,
and yeah. Like I said, sure you didn't have Ben. I don't buy into that. My thing, and if this news broke today or yesterday, it was within the last 24, 48 hours. 10 people on the Browns team have tested positive. I'm not sure if that's just coaches, staff, what have you. But potentially losing so many guys this close to a big game is the only reason why I'm thinking Pittsburgh might have a chance this week. If this COVID thing doesn't happen to Cleveland, there's no chance that I think the Steelers beat the Browns.
I don't think we should ever say that they never had a chance. Because you're by all means. I agree that the Browns are the better team. And they have proven that, even if it is a 2-point conversion away from being a different game. What I will say is the Steelers that started the season are entirely different than the Steelers that ended the season.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's they were playing on the notion that we're not going to get a full season in, like many of us in the fantasy world did not believe would happen. But They had a mentality switch around week 8 or 9, and it went from feeling like they were unstoppable to being completely unable to do anything productive. But
Yeah, no, and it's similar to my thoughts on Bridgewater. Pittsburgh, I don't hate you. I just
I
this
kind of
year
do.
I don't. This year, you're not the team. Ravens 38, Bengals 3. Um,
They had us
Now
fooled for two
I'll
weeks.
I'll be the first to say I'll eat my words. I thought the Bengals had a chance this week. Um, Steelers 12-4, Ravens and Browns at 11-5, Bengals 4-11-1. That's three AFC North teams in the playoffs right there, and the Bengals. Um, there's not
So
much. The Ravens played like they had something to win, and they did have something to
yeah, they had a game they had to play and they played. Um,
win. It was good
I'm
to
pretty
see
sure
from
if they had
Baltimore.
lost, they still would have been in the playoffs over the Dolphins. But
I don't know offhand. Um,
I think the only team that could have
Missed out would have been the Browns.
no, the Colts would have been left out if they lost.
Right,
The Colts would
right.
have been team 8, but obviously they were playing Jacksonville. So,
Yeah, yeah. Um,
anyways,
Ravens played like they had something to win. It was good to see. It reminded me of Ravens of last season, which they're hitting that start at the right time.
I would say it's another team that they are producing when they need to produce, and they are getting to their peak playing ability
Mhm.
the week playoff starts.
Um, Vegas 32, Broncos 31.
You're
My
just skipping
boys.
over a game?
Oh no, we're good. I figured that'd be the one we finish this division on.
Oh, okay, okay.
My boys finished that season on a high note.
Sure they are.
Char-
I mean,
Chargers.
okay, you you blocked 2 field goals in a game. You are I
Hey, one of these days I'm gonna get you to come out on Vegas.
it's not going to happen.
It'll
I
happen. 2021,
okay,
2022 is the year of Vegas.
Derek Carr has had 4,000 passing yards in a season for the third time in his career. And the Raiders go ahead with a 2-point conversion with less than 30 seconds in the game, and then they end up blocking a field goal with 5 seconds left to win. I mean,
It sounds like an earned victory, if you ask me.
that sounds like a Vegas bet if you had to put one on paper.
No, I think that's more of the Eagles.
I guess
Chargers
that's fair.
38, Chargers 38, Chiefs 21. Now, let's get the elephant out of the room first of all. Yeah, no Mahomes, whatever. Which I think was a stupid idea.
I have a question, and it
Yeah.
relates to Mahomes. And you basically just answered it. Is it smart to bench him?
No,
Is it smart to
that's
rest him
2
at
weeks
all?
off. That's 2 weeks off. I believe I said last week, and I think you agreed with me for all intents and purposes. Mahomes had to at least start the game.
Yeah.
Get him some work. I'm not saying he needed to play the full thing. Don't risk injury. But
Do what the Bills did.
do, do what the Eagles did.
Yeah.
Other than that, with the exception of some other pieces of the Kansas City offense, I believe the Kansas City defense was all there.
I
To my
mean,
knowledge, I don't know everybody piece for piece, but the Chargers looked good. Herbert's making history, which we knew.
he made 4 rookie records. He has the most completions in a season. He passed Wentz's 2016 record of 379. He has the most 3 or more passing touchdown games with 6. He has the most 300 plus passing yard games with 8, and he has 31 passing touchdowns. The other good thing is the Chargers have now won 4 straight, and they had 3 total wins weeks 1 through 13.
You gotta. I mean, we said weeks ago the Chargers were not as bad as the record showed. Chargers finished the season at 7-9. That's something I can understand behind a rookie quarterback.
They parted ways with Anthony Lynn.
Mhm.
And there's a whole bunch of
That's my LA team right there.
there's a bunch of debate. No, I won't say debate. There's a bunch of frustration on social media over how it was announced that he was relieved of his duties.
How was it announced?
There were 3 other coaches that were also fired. They were all quoted as parted ways. The one individual, who is Anthony Lynn, who is not white, was said to have been fired. And people are not pleased.
We're not going to get political.
I'm just putting out there that ESPN is not consistent.
I heard nothing about that. Chargers 7-9 though. Broncos finished at 5-11, which is better than I thought they should have finished.
You don't like you don't like Drew Lock?
I do like Drew Lock, actually. That's the thing. I'm just not sure if Drew Lock's the guy. I think so. Early 2021-22 season. So not this upcoming season, the season after. No, that is the season. Okay, maybe this season, maybe next season. I'm looking forward to this the AFC West. I like where this division's headed, especially Vegas.
And here's something that I want to throw out there that I don't know that many Chargers fans will appreciate, but I would not be surprised if Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh tries to get a job there, because apparently he is actively seeking a job in the NFL, and that is why he is not signing an extension. That Chargers team could actually be pretty good for him.
Colts 28, Jaguars 14. Colts needed the win. They were going to get the win. It was closer than I thought it would be. Being only 2 scores.
Was it actually
no,
closer?
It wasn't. It wasn't. It was not. Now, a game that was a lot closer than I thought it would have been. Titans 41, Texans 38. Oh, man, that field goal to end the game. Oh, man.
He's just making it fun for everybody.
Good Lord.
Hitting the upright.
Everybody knows I'm a Titans fan, true and true. I love my boy Tannehill, love Henry, love A.J. Brown, love Corey Davis, love Jonnu Smith. That's my team. I've never been more scared about a field goal. And I was cheering for the Bears a couple years ago against the Eagles when Parkey missed that.
They never should have been able to have that field goal to begin with, that field goal opportunity to begin with.
They shouldn't have needed the field goal opportunity to begin with.
Okay. Yes. The Titans got the ball back with less than 30 seconds after the Texans had gotten their field goal and were able to get one play in that was like a 50-yard pass and just say, okay, field goal time. We have a timeout to throw. So Brandon Cooks had a hell of a year. He joins Brandon Marshall as the only players in NFL history to have 1,000 receiving yards with 4 different teams. And Derrick Henry is just a fucking monster.
Mm-hmm.
2,027 yards. It's the 5th most in a single season in NFL history. And he's the 8th player ever to hit 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable.
I don't think there's been any question at all this year about Tennessee's offense.
No.
If Tennessee falters, it's going to be their defense. And we'll talk about that more in our playoff predictions. But that could really suck to see, depending on some of these matchups they might have.
This upcoming week, it will be a tough challenge, and it won't be because of defense.
For the record, that is the game I'm most excited to watch this weekend. Tennessee and Baltimore.
Good thing it's early on Sunday.
Me being a Tennessee fan aside, I'm really excited.
And me being more of a Ravens fan.
Yeah. Titans clinched the division 11-5 for the first time in a few years. I can't think of the number off my head, but it's been a minute.
I want to say it was 2014 that I read.
Yeah, I thought it was
Or
like 6 or so
2016.
years. Yeah. Colts 11-5 get that wild card spot. Texans 4-12. Jags 1-15. Texans are also 4-12. Falcons. Oh, we'll talk about that later. I just realized that.
Yes, we will. It's almost like I did this on purpose.
It's almost like we planned this. All right, we'll come
Off
back
to
to
the
that other
AFC
game.
East. Let's
We'll
do
come
it.
back to that game. New England 28, Jets 14.
I'm disappointed.
I am too, because this game really could have gone either way to me.
So something a very poor statistic. The Jets against the Patriots in Sam Darnold's 3 career starts. They've been outscored 99-17, 14 of which happened Sunday.
Oh dear God! How many points? How many points did Flacco put up when he played him a couple weeks ago? Can you pull it up for me?
Yeah. I can't type. So while I'm doing this, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think this is Cam Newton's last game in New England?
I think it should be. I didn't see anything this year that should give a reason for him to be back in New England. I don't think Cam's career is over.
Okay.
I think his
that was
time
gonna
is
be that was gonna be my
done.
follow-up question.
I don't think his career is over. I just don't think New England's the team. They got him on a steal. They got him for nothing, and it kind of showed, to be honest.
Yeah. So this is back when the Patriots are 3-5 and the Jets are 0-9. New England scores 30 and the Jets score 27. And Flacco has 3 passing touchdowns and 1 interception.
I will say, and I remember watching the interception at the bar, and it was a horrible pass by Flacco. Had he not done that, the Jets win that game.
Is Flacco elite?
Without a doubt, hands down. Hands down. Maybe next week we'll do a deep dive on Flacco. That could be fun.
That would be interesting.
Bill, the Dolphins lose is the best way to lead into this one. I'm not going to brag. I'm not going to gloat. Even though I've said it for weeks, I'm not going to say it again.
You called the playoff picture better than I did, and part of me was more of I wanted the Dolphins to make it because I did not want 3 teams from one division.
I didn't either.
But you knew it was going to happen. They
weren't getting past the Bills.
No.
There was no way the Dolphins were going to win this game. And that 56-26 shows it. And keep in mind, the Dolphins defense is a pretty decent defense.
Yes, I think they're a top 10 for sure.
If that's not scary for anybody that has to pay the bills, I said pay the bills, which still works, but all right.
So there are 2 things again that I'm going to bring up, but before I do this, I'm going to throw this out there now and just say I'm bandwagoning for the Bills. Like Josh Allen, he is my man, and I want to get a jersey of him because he is just lighting it up out there. And the funny thing is he hardly really played in this game. He did not play really meaningful minutes after the first half.
Oh.
The Bills
what Patrick Mahomes should have been. That's what the Chiefs should have done.
Okay. The Bills have won 7 of their last 8 games. All of their wins have been by 10 or more points. They have been making every win at least a 2-possession game. And this is the first time they've won 6 straight since 2004.
We've been saying for weeks that Buffalo clinched a spot a while ago.
I want to say in week 3 of talking, we said that they were the second best team in this division or in this conference.
Mm-hmm. And going into the playoffs, that's a very, very different conversation. But even once the Bills clinched a playoff spot, they were not letting up. They destroyed the Broncos. They destroyed Miami, and it's these Bills are hungry. Like
They want a Super Bowl and they want to be there and they want to show that they belong in the big boys chair.
I've been big on the Bills all year. I was big on them last season when they lost to Texans, which you could really just say was Josh Allen's inexperience, to be honest.
Yeah.
I really like where the Bills are going, not to discredit where the Dolphins are going to, because I do think the Dolphins are next year. I think they finish with a better record than 10-6.
So I want to look at a couple scores from the Bills this season. The games they've lost. First, we're going to talk about the Chiefs. They played the Chiefs once this year, and it was a 26-17 game. This is back in week 6. They had 2 back-to-back losses. Well, they had a back-to-back loss. The game before that, they played the Titans. They got obliterated, 42-16. But since they played the Chiefs, they only lost to the Cardinals. It was a 2-point game.
And we all know what happened there.
It was a 2-point game.
Last minute Hail Mary.
I know.
Yeah, no, that's a win for Buffalo.
Yes.
After their own last minute Hail Mary.
Yeah, and then other than that, you're playing a 49ers team that is getting healthy again. You're playing the Chargers, who ended the season winning 4 in a row. Mm-hmm. You are their second to last loss, or actually, you are their last loss, I believe. You have them beating the Steelers, dismantling the Broncos, dismantling the Patriots, and absolutely obliterating the Dolphins. These last 3 weeks show you should be terrified of the Bills.
Yeah. You hear us, Indianapolis? Saturday, 105, Colts at Bills. 4:40, Rams at Seahawks. 8:15, Bucks at Washington. How nice is that Washington has the home field right there? It warms my heart.
Perks of winning a division.
Yep. Sunday, Ravens at Titans. Bears at Saints, and Browns at Steelers with the same corresponding times. Like I said, we're going to do a whole different episode about this, but looking at those 6, I have one lock. The other 5 I could see going any other way.
My one lock is the first game that's happening.
I agree. Okay. That's my one lock, is the Bills are beating the Colts.
Yeah. Everything else could literally go flip of a coin, flip it 100 times. You'll get 52 one way, 48 the other, and you have no idea.
And don't get me wrong, Colts, you deserve to be where you are. The Bills is just a really tough first matchup there.
So this is a question that kind of comes up at the end of everything, but I want to pose it now so we can either talk about it later or just get it out of the way. Is that Phillip Rivers' last game?
How was it, a 1-year deal he signed or a 2-year deal he signed? I thought it was a 2-year.
I don't know the details, but
that doesn't really matter.
One of the things I think I was reading was basically saying that unless he comes back to the Colts, he's most likely done. So that leads me to believe it's a 1 year.
I could see one more year out of Old Man Rivers.
Okay.
Because we do have to keep in mind, this was his first season with Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue, hell, they lost to the Jaguars week 1. That's the Jaguars' one victory this season.
Yeah.
There's definitely been some growing pains. If they beat the Jaguars week 1, like they should have, this is Indianapolis' division.
Yep.
I think we get one more year out of Rivers.
Okay.
Yeah. If the Colts somehow win the Super Bowl, no. But I think we could get one more year out of Rivers. I wouldn't be shocked if we don't, but I think we could.
Yeah. Because I think we know at least one other quarterback that's happening on Sunday. Likely will not come back next year. But again, conversation that we can bring up at the end.
Absolutely.
So now I think it's on to some of our favorite times of the
boys. I'm excited for this one, Ricky. Because I know we're going to disagree.
So this
At least
week,
I'm not sure if I know we will, but I feel like we are going to, or we're going to have very different.
this week I
reasons.
decided to have some fun, and I'm sure we will disagree because one of your favorite quarterbacks is on this list. We are ranking best,
For what it's
terrible,
worth,
and bust.
before you explain it to anybody listening, I tried really hard to get him off of this list because I didn't want to do this.
I had 4 names. One of them we've discussed frequently, and that's Matt Stafford. Took him off the list because we talk about the Lions and not that Matt Stafford enough. Again, we're talking about Derek Carr in this because we have to talk about Vegas. We are rating the best quarterbacks on the worst teams.
Mm-hmm.
Our 3 quarterbacks in contention: Deshaun Watson on the 4-12 Texans, Derek Carr on the 8-8 Las Vegas Raiders, and Matt Ryan on the somehow 4-12 Atlanta Falcons.
And you might be asking, how are these guys the best quarterbacks on the worst team? And I'll tell you how, because it's exactly what Ricky and I were thinking earlier. Because 2 of these teams are 4-12, the other one's 8-8. All 3 feel like they're 6-10. So they're the same team as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, and we're not going to be talking about Teddy Bridgewater. We're not going to be talking about Sam Darnold. I mean, we're not going to bring up Justin Herbert, who's having a career year on a very marginal team.
Yeah, we should talk about Sam Darnold more, though. We don't. I feel like we don't talk about Darnold. We talk about the Jets, but I don't think we talk about Darnold enough.
Okay, we can talk about Darnold more. We're not talking about him today.
Yeah, maybe next week.
There are a lot of quarterbacks who are good. I wanted to put Matt Stafford in here just because it's a 5-11 team, and I really think we need to consider the teams in this scenario. Mm-hmm. So let's dig into some of the statistics. Deshaun Watson, he has 4,823 yards this year. He has a 70.22 completion percentage on 544 passes attempted. 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, a long of 77 yards. He has been sacked 49 times for 293 yards lost. He has rushed for 444. That's net positive. That's good. He has rushed for 3 touchdowns. He has 4 lost fumbles and a QBR of 112.4. For a 4-12 team, that is phenomenal. Derek Carr, 4,103 yards, 67.31% completion percentage on 517 passes, 27 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 85-yard long touchdown pass. Well, not necessarily touchdown pass. I don't know if that one was a touchdown. He's been sacked 26 times for 150 yards lost. He's rushed for 140. You're down by 10. Oh, well. 3 touchdowns, 3 fumbles lost, QBR of 101.4. Again, a very good QBR, even though we're considering that he's an 8-8 team compared to a 4-12. Now, Matt Ryan, 45.81 in yards, 65.02% completion for 626 out of 626 passes, 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 63-yard long. He's been sacked 41 times for 257 yards lost. He's only rushed for 92, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 fumbles, QBR of 93.3.
If our best isn't the same, we need to really reanalyze how we do this show.
I assume the best is fairly obvious on statistics alone.
Yes.
And without a doubt, that is Deshaun Watson.
Anytime you are on a 4-12 team, but you are also still considered in MVP conversations, you are the best.
Oh, we're also bringing this up later, so
absolutely.
When we're looking at our 4-12 conversation, I'm I want to talk about this for a second. I was looking at the NFL insights on all of their scores, because I like to make sure that I see different opinions and what's going on. Um, Pretty much everything felt like it was talking about Deshaun Watson this week, and I just want to pull that up. Well, it was Derrick Henry and Deshaun Watson because Derrick Henry is just unreasonable, and unreasonable is a good thing, not a bad thing. Deshaun Watson has the most passing yards in a single season in Texans history. Deshaun Watson is 16 and 24 as a starter when he's sacked 2 or more times. He's gotten sacked a lot this year. Deshaun Watson surpasses Matt Schaub for the most games with 300 passing yards in a single season in Texans history. He had 9 games. Deshaun Watson has surpassed Matt Schaub again for the most games with 2 or more passing touchdowns in a single season. Just, I mean, over and over again, we're talking about Deshaun Watson, and their team lost. I don't think there's much else to talk about other than when you look at how many times he's sacked, how many yards he has, and how he still has a rushing total beyond his sacks. I think looking at those alone tells you where he should be. That completion percentage is one of the top in the league, which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to, when you're looking at Deshaun going into this season, right? You lose your best receiver in DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
You start 0-4, and I believe it was after that 4th loss that they fired Bullet Bill. I believe it was after. It could have been after their first win in Week 5 against the Jags. I doubt it.
Yeah.
So okay, cool. So 4 losses in. Now you're starting the season 0-4, and you're essentially starting over.
Mm-hmm.
7 weeks later, you're at a weird record, and then you lose your number 1 wide receiver after DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller. So all you got is Brandon Cooks. That's not a dig at Brandon Cooks, but
he clearly has had a good year.
At the end of last season, you think you got Hopkins, Fuller, and Cooks, and those are 3 good wide receivers.
That is a triple threat you don't want to deal with.
And you lost all of it, essentially, with the exception of Brandon Cooks. So, I mean, Deshaun and what he's done this season has really been kind of the epitome of turning chicken shit to chicken salad. There's no other way to put it.
That's hilarious.
All right.
Okay.
Now here's where I think we're going to disagree.
I can only assume we will, because my bearable is Matt Ryan. And honestly, a lot of that has to do with looking at how many times he has been sacked and how much he is still able to do. Because if you're sacked 41 times for 257 yards, I mean, you're losing 40 possessions that you can continue. And I think that kind of equates to a 4-12 record, especially when he has not been protected enough this year. Deshaun Watson was also not protected enough this year, but he's a much more mobile quarterback compared to Matt Ryan. And this is me kind of digging at the Raiders, not at Carr. Your 8-8 record does not reflect well on your quarterback. He still has been sacked for 150 yards lost, and he's only rushed for 140. Again, not a very mobile quarterback, but he should be getting more from this team, and his stats show that he should be getting more from this team because his completion percentage is good. It is top tier when it comes to NFL quarterbacks. He's not a rusher. He has a good QBR. He's got a lot of yards, but he should have more touchdowns. His interceptions, honestly, are fine. 9 interceptions in a season is not bad. It's hard to be perfect. It's hard to be on the level that Aaron Rodgers is. And
crazy year for him.
I have to say that it is the team that has let Derek Carr down, not Derek Carr letting down his team.
See, and I'm glad that's how you put it. Reason being is that's essentially the same reason why I have those flipped.
Yeah.
That's why I have Carr as bearable and Bust as Ryan. And I we talked earlier.
And they easily can be flip flopped.
I really was trying to think of how to make Derek Carr my bust here.
Yeah.
I was genuinely trying, and I couldn't do it. And I mean, you look at it, 400 less passing yards than Matt Ryan, 700 less than Deshaun. It's also 100 attempts less than Matt Ryan, only like 30 less than Deshaun, but Deshaun's already the best. We've already established that.
Yeah. That one was not negotiable.
Derek Carr takes those extra 100 attempts, makes 50% of them for sake of.
Yeah.
Maybe the yardage is a bit closer. Touchdowns might be a little bit higher. Interceptions might be a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Obviously, as the standard as any of our Bubba boys, none of these three are bad guys. None of them are bad.
Debatable.
We're not doing this.
I'm poking the bear. It's okay.
But it's for me, bearable Derek Carr, bust Matt Ryan. But Deshaun's definitely
stats alone. It's stats alone this season. It goes down the list of best bearable bust. No questions asked.
Because I think we also looked at the Raiders' schedule. It might have been last week or week before. And while they are 8-8 now, and while they feel 6-10, this is a team that also could have been 12-4, 13-3.
They probably should be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They don't deserve it, but they should be.
No, but if they were, they'd deserve it, if that makes sense.
Now I do want to throw this quick wrench. We're not going to look at stats, just thinking about it. Where would Matt Ryan be on this list if you replaced him with Derek Carr? Matt Stafford, not Matt Ryan.
I was like, what do you mean?
Matt Stafford. I read Matt Ryan as I said that.
Without thinking stats, like without just my gut instinct, I'd probably say about the same.
Okay. I would have to say that he's going to be above Matt Ryan.
Yeah, no, I'd probably still keep Carr/Stafford, who I've already made the argument for being pretty much the same quarterback. Back in like our first or second episode.
Touche.
As being the bearable. Now, the runner-up this week, and there was quite a few candidates this week. We went with Jonathan Taylor as the guy to be compared to. A close second was Derrick Henry, and for that
beat
reason
him out
alone,
by 3 yards and 1 fumble.
For that, and that was what it was for me, was the fumble. It was the fumble.
I was rewatching that, and I still don't understand that fumble.
Because that fumble could have been really costly. I mean, it was.
It was costly.
But it could have been even worse had that field goal not.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think it's only fair to disqualify Derrick Henry from contention this week.
And he's already been discussed God knows how many times.
Sure, and I think we've discussed Jonathan Taylor in this subject as well, but it might have been... No, we've done Jonathan Taylor and the Bubba Boys. I'm not sure if we've done Jonathan Taylor and the runner-up. He might have been a runner-up in the past.
He's been on my list.
Okay.
But so Jonathan Taylor has 253 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and I want to say he had 1 reception for 1 yard. I consider that negligible, and I essentially left that off. But I did want to throw that out there. He did receive something. He didn't fumble. That's important.
Because that's really the only thing that made a difference.
So I have 3 players on my list this week. And I am still struggling on who is my absolute runner-up. I'll just list them off, and we can go over stats.
Yeah.
Marvin Jones, Justin Herbert, Brandon Cooks. Marvin Jones had 8 receptions, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's when you're looking at the Lions, that's great. Justin Herbert had 302 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, no interceptions, and he had a rushing touchdown. Brandon Cooks had 11 receptions, 166 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I want to give this to Jones just because of the Lions, and the Lions don't get much. But I think Justin Herbert deserves it more.
I'll tell you who I'm going to give it to off of your 3 once I give you my 2.
Sounds good.
Because I saw who you had as your 3. before I
let's
decided
put it
on
there
mine.
for a reason.
Yep. And the two guys I have do not nearly have the same. Both of mine are at wide receivers. One of them, the stats I don't have offhand because he was not my pick. But I did want to give a special acknowledgement to Antonio Brown for having a good week this week. And quite frankly, since he's come back into the league this season, head down, done his work.
Yeah.
And props to him.
Something he's needed to do, and that's
Sure.
good.
But my particular runner-up is a wide receiver for the New York Giants, and it's Sterling Shepard. 8 receptions, 112 yards, one receiving touchdown, 24 rushing yards, one rushing touchdown. And comparatively to Marvin Jones or Brandon Cooks, those stats are not the same. But if we were to look at Houston's team, we know Brandon Cooks is the receiver.
Yeah.
When we look at the Lions, we know if Galladay's out, it's Marvin Jones, if not Hawkinson. When we're talking wide receivers only.
Yeah.
With the Giants, I don't think most people could have named Sterling Shepard, which is a shame because he's a fine, good receiver.
He just happens to be on the Giants.
Absolutely. That being said, though, I think the runner-up this week is Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks, great game. Marvin Jones, great game. My thing with Justin Herbert is, we're always singing his praises. I'm aware. We're big Herbert fans here. However, it somehow feels like we're the only ones that are. This kid's having a phenomenal rookie season, breaking rookie records, and you're not hearing about it.
No, he doesn't make a fuss about who he is. He doesn't have.
Herbert and the Chargers have lost some games to some good teams, like losing to the Saints and the Chiefs and the Bucks, and those games were close games.
And now you get to beat the Chiefs. Yeah, you don't have Mahomes, but the way he's played the past 2 weeks, you still might have beat him.
Mm-hmm. It's
because you're playing against their defense, not against their offense.
Yeah, at the end of the day, look, we're giving all the credit in the world to Justin Herbert, and I'm sick of us being the ones that are.
We got to keep doing our part then.
MVP runner-up. So this, if for those of you who don't recall, this was our final question, week 1 or week 2.
Week 2.
Week 2, when we said who else is in consideration for MVP outside of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit's changed. And it's I think we agree the front runner is Aaron Rodgers now.
Yes. I mean, he has to be. His stats are unreal this year.
Mm-hmm. That being said, something in my gut still tells me it might go to Mahomes. And I like Mahomes. It shouldn't go to him. It shouldn't go to him.
He doesn't deserve it.
When comparing to Aaron Rodgers in the season that he's had, which is absolutely legendary season, might I add. Ricky touched on it momentarily ago. The interceptions alone is insane.
5 interceptions in 16 games.
And I feel like that first interception didn't come until like week 9 or 10. Well,
and I was another one of those. I should have written down the statistic of, here is one of them related to interceptions. Rodgers has 56 career games with 3 touchdowns or more and 0 interceptions. I can't think of anybody else who, current players specifically, could come close to that mark. This season, he has a 70.72 completion percentage, 42.99 in yards, 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a QBR of 121.5. I don't think there is a reasonable discussion on putting Mahomes above him. Mahomes significant more yards, but he does have 38 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a 66.33% completion percentage, QBR of 108.2. Those aren't close.
The yards is incredible from Mahomes. We're not taking anything away from Mahomes. Mahomes is still a phenomenal quarterback.
Yeah. And he has proven that he is trying to create a dynasty in Kansas City.
So that being said, Ricky, who's the runner-up?
So I have 4 people on this list. I added one since I sent it to you.
Yeah.
My list, in no particular order, yes, it says 1 through 4 on them, but that is not necessarily where I'm putting them. Josh Allen, Devontae Adams, Deshaun Watson, and Derrick Henry.
For a second, I heard Derrick, and I was like, you're coming around?
No. So, Josh Allen, again, 4,500 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 421 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, a receiving touchdown, and he has lost 6 fumbles. Devontae Adams has 115 receptions for 1,374 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 1 fumble. Watson's stats are the same as before. He has 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 400 plus rushing, 3 touchdowns, 3 fumbles. Derrick Henry, above 2,000 rushing yards, a 94-yard long, 17 touchdowns, and 3 fumbles. If I was looking at these stats alone as who is in contention, not even looking at Mahomes, not even looking at Aaron Rodgers, I would have the most difficult time picking who should be the runner-up. And really, who should be the MVP. Because all of these are MVP stats.
Absolutely, without a doubt. For me, it's the age-old struggle of if you're not a quarterback, you don't often get an MVP nod.
It's not fair.
No, it's not, because
I think this season you realistically put this between, again, Aaron Rodgers aside, realistically Mahomes aside, you put this between Josh Allen and Derrick Henry. But both Devontae Adams and Deshaun Watson make a very serious case.
Yeah.
And Deshaun Watson in particular.
And that was the thing. And it was...
Records, I think, have an issue.
Absolutely. And they should and they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because as we've already established with Derek Carr a few moments ago, is the record doesn't necessarily fall back on the quarterback like it does.
Yeah.
For a minute here, looking at these stats, because Derrick Henry is a good nod. Devontae Adams is a good nod. For me, it's Josh Allen. For me, it's Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I was going back and forth between Josh Allen and Deshaun Watson. And then those 8 rushing touchdowns came back to me for Josh Allen. 6 lost fumbles, that's not good. 300 less passing yards, a couple more touchdowns, a couple more interceptions, a couple less rushing yards. But you have to think, and yes, he does have Diggs. He has Cole Beasley.
Yeah.
But Josh Allen, when you think that Bills offense, you're thinking Josh Allen.
Yep.
When you think the Texans offense, you think, who does Deshaun have?
Yeah.
When you think the Texans offense, you think, is J.J. Watt still getting fumble recoveries?
That's hard.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I think is really important, when it comes to fumbles as a quarterback, you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because how many times do you see a quarterback throwing a football and their arm gets hit as they're trying to release it forward and it's a fumble? That counts.
Absolutely. It's fumbles are one of those things you have to take with a grain of salt, like you said.
I think the receiving touchdown is what gives it to him. I mean, come on. He's got all 3 categories.
Yeah, Cole Beasley, I believe, is the one that threw that too.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Josh Allen's my pick for the runner-up in regards to the MVP conversation. I would not be shocked if a few years down the road, hell, even maybe next year, Josh Allen could be MVP.
Absolutely. He might be in there for another MVP this season, just a different variety. That's for Thursday.
We talking more Tampa?
We are talking more Tampa.
All right.
And kind of New England.
Yeah.
So there was a preseason question that was put out there. How good will the Tampa offense be being led by Tom Brady? And the continuance of that question is, what did leaving New England do to that team? What was Tom's impact for both sides of it? I don't know what you have. A lot of mine is more so opinion, not looking at statistics.
Mine's the same.
Okay. I want to start by saying leaving New England, a Patriots dynasty ended. It turned to rubble. It does not exist. Tom going to Tampa shows that he seems to be the glue that holds together different offenses. Not that he is the deciding factor necessarily, but he is what keeps the building upright.
There was a lot of talk going into this season, and first and foremost, this is the first time Tampa has been to the playoffs in a long time.
I want to say 2004.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. There was a lot of talk going into this season, whether people will find out, is it Tom or is it Belichick? And that really confused me because I didn't think it was one or the other. I thought both of them were keys there.
Yeah.
I don't think this year's Patriots reflects Belichick at all.
No.
I do think this year's Buccaneers reflects Brady. I did not expect Tampa to win the division.
No.
I expected them to get to the playoffs. I expected them somewhere between 9-7 and 11-5. I was leaning
them
closer
to be the Dolphins.
In a way.
Yeah.
I was expecting them closer to the 9-7 than I was 11-5.
Yeah.
I'm by no means the biggest Brady fan out there. Like, I have nothing against the guy, but I think it's foolish of me to think he's not one of, if not the best of all time. People thinking that him coming to Tampa, being like, oh, he's washed up, he's a has-been. Yeah, sure, he's old. Like, he's old for a quarterback. He's been around for a good while.
He sure is playing better than some young quarterbacks.
He's not.
Or younger.
He's not bad.
No.
It's not like he was cut from New England. He's not Dwayne Haskins. Sorry, Dwayne.
That's for a completely different reason.
Dwayne, if you're listening. There's no reason. Like, these debates, these concerns, I understand the questions of how good would Tampa be? What does this do for New England? I understand those questions, but the debates that were being sparred out of this are nonsense. They weren't necessary.
Yeah.
What did this do to New England? Fucked them up. Like, you don't have your quarterback anymore. You don't have a quarterback.
Sorry, Cam.
You still don't. You got Stidham. I'd like to see what he can do. Yeah. What does this do for Tampa? It gives them a quarterback. They didn't have one.
It puts them in a position to do something of substance.
You expect me to believe Jameis Winston is an equal replacement with Tom Brady? Not a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom Brady is still probably in the top 5, to be honest.
Okay, I'd give him top 10.
Top 10 for sure, but I'm saying probably top 5 because just because your stats don't reflect it doesn't mean your team doesn't reflect it. Mm-hmm. Stats alone, he's not top 5.
Yeah,
But he is, I mean, even being in his 40s, has shown he can play not as quickly, obviously, when it comes to his movements, but he can play as well as a young gun can, um, especially when it's decision making. I mean, his decision making and his 20 years in the NFL sure impact that.
for sure. And I think the biggest takeaway from wherever the Bucks fall this postseason, um, the biggest takeaway I think is that Brady proved people wrong, but he shouldn't have had to.
No.
Um,
And what, he wants to play for another 3 or 4 years,
and
if not
like
more.
we touched on earlier, the Bucks are getting hot at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these playoff teams are getting hot at the right time.
I have to say, I hope Tom doesn't win another Super Bowl, but
Wouldn't
I
that be
don't know
just be
that I
the?
would be shocked.
Wouldn't that be the icing? The icing
Oh,
on the cake right there.
that would be ridiculous, and would tell you that he is the big man on campus wherever he goes.
What a disappointing
Um,
season that would be for New England fans. Speaking of
uh,
disappointing seasons,
Great segue.
Ricky, whose season was the most disappointing?
A team we have talked about a few times today. I am going with the Atlanta Falcons.
Ooh, they're not one of the 9 teams I've listed.
You have 9 teams listed.
Not really, but we'll get there.
So, I mean, in my eyes, you can argue the Jets, you can argue the Jags, you can argue the Lions, the Texans, the Dolphins. You could argue the Dolphins because they get left out of the playoffs at 10-6 over an 8-8 team.
No one else got left off of the playoffs at 10-6. Oh, it was 6-10. My bad. You were saying?
Um, as we've talked about, God knows how many times in the past handful of weeks, team doesn't feel like they're a 4-X team. They don't feel like 4-12. They didn't feel like 4-9. But when you're looking at what pieces fell apart, especially when it comes to blowing lead after lead after lead, making Tom Brady look like he's in a Super Bowl again against you by blowing another lead, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts to be Matt Ryan. It hurts to be on the Falcons. This season hurts for them. And I think overall it's the most disappointing of any of the records.
I have a total of 6 teams to briefly talk about before my actual pick.
Oh, Jesus.
They're going to go quick, trust me. My first 2 can kind of be lumped up in the same way, even though their seasons went completely different directions. And that's Baltimore, and that's Houston.
Interesting.
And Houston, for the reasons we discussed earlier,
Yep.
is end of last season. You think you had a lot to look forward to. You won the division last year. Yeah. You thought things are on the up and up. You lose your best hands. You lose your second best hands. You fire GM/coach, and you've been faltering all year. Look at Baltimore, the best team in the regular season last season. Bit of a surprise losing to the Titans. I wasn't surprised. I knew it was coming.
Fuck you Titan fan.
But if anybody tells you they didn't expect the same thing out of Baltimore going into this year, they'd be lying to you.
Agree. 100%.
This is a Baltimore team that we didn't know if they were going to make the playoffs until about 2 weeks ago, when it started to look like, hey, they got this.
Yeah.
So you go from that to where they are now, and yeah, they've really heated up lately. They've been looking really good lately. But that has to be a disappointing season when you're expecting Buffalo and you're acting like Baltimore is right now. That's a disappointment.
True.
The next one to touch on is my Vegas Raiders. And
I get it.
Yeah. you started this season real hot. Everybody thought like, okay, maybe Kansas City has an actual competitor in their division right now. And then if we rewind to if we start this show week 11, what do we do? Week 12, week 13?
I think 12.
If we start the show week 11, I would have put 100 down on the fact that the Raiders would make the playoffs. I had no reason to think otherwise.
Yeah.
The next three teams is just the NFC East. And it's Sans Washington football team. That whole division is just disappointing. It's Dallas, you lost to Dak, all right. Philly, you lost whatever it was you guys had. New York Giants, you lost your playoff hopes because of Philly. Look, the NFC East is full of losses.
Yeah.
But one team has one loss less than the others, and that's Washington, and they have something to be proud of. Washington really does have something to be proud of this year. We've talked about it a little bit.
They've got a lot to show.
Yeah. But the actual team that I'd say has had the most disappointing season is last year's NFC champs, the 49ers. Looking at the Niners, nothing changed for your team. They just all got hurt. You still finished 6-10.
So
if I'm a Niners fan, which I kind of am, they're probably my NFC West team, I guess. Right behind my Rams.
You have 8 teams that you root for?
I have a team in every division. You got to keep my tabs open. If I'm a Niners fan, I'm really disappointed because
you would expect a lot out of this year, and
knowing that all of it had nothing to do with the abilities, just the misfortune of injuries, I'd be very disappointed.
I fully understand that, and
no.
It's a very interesting list, and it's kind of funny because here we are in Michigan. The Lions are never going to be on that list. It's an expectation that they're going to suck.
Well, and that's kind of what was with Atlanta. Is I don't think anybody expected anything different from Atlanta this year. I like the Falcons. I'm big on Matt Ryan. Todd Gurley used to save my fantasy league all the time.
I'm glad I traded him to you.
Well, then he did nothing. But the reason Atlanta's season didn't disappoint me is because there was, for the same reasons the Lions did disappoint me, is there wasn't really any expectations. That being said, though, talking about disappointing teams, how about teams that have been great? And by great, I mean playoff teams. Those great teams that have something to prove. And so I'll answer this real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
The question, what playoff team has the most to prove? All of them except Green Bay is the easy answer. But now for more complicated answers, I'll let you take the floor.
So I have 2 teams really that take this. We have a team in the Super Bowl in the playoffs that both of us did not realize was in contention for the playoffs. I think the Rams have the most to prove just because they have had such a lackluster end to the year. Nothing really impressive happened. It's not like they were the Bills just throttling everybody and kicking ass. They have a lot to show still. You could argue that the Steelers are essentially in the same boat as them. But I also think there's a team that not only has the most to prove, but they also have the most to lose. That's the Bills. The Bills, in my opinion, should win the Super Bowl. Should. Doesn't mean they'll get there, but they should win. Especially with how they've been playing, especially with how the Chiefs have been playing. They should be the one getting to the Super Bowl and playing against the Packers and probably kicking ass.
So I have 4 teams outside of all of them. but I'll list off two of my four as their honorable mentions because I really only have two teams like you do.
Yeah.
But the honorable mentions, Tennessee and Baltimore.
Yep.
Baltimore for the reasons I listed 20 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Tennessee for kind of similar reasons. Is Tennessee's in the spot that you can argue you can argue Baltimore's in the spot that Tennessee was in last year.
Yeah.
You just kind of made it. Are you going to upset some teams? You're going to lose. And Tennessee was upsetting teams. Tennessee, particularly their defense, is going to be what costs them the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee needs to prove that they are legit, that they're a legit team, that they should be the AFC South title holders, and that they should be for a few years to come.
I get it.
Now my actual two with the most to prove, one of them is Buffalo as well. Because when you have an offense this hot that scores this high, this late in the season, you cannot lose. If Buffalo, in my opinion, if Buffalo does not make it to the Super Bowl, it was a bust. And I don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to undersell the Chiefs, but Buffalo has been the second best football team the last 6 weeks. Yeah. If you don't make it to the Super Bowl, you're doing something. Like you have to prove that this is you can't go last year's wild card round against the Texans and blow it. Now, the reason I said Buffalo before this next one is because you already said Buffalo. No use, getting back into that. The other team to me that has the most to prove right now is Tampa Bay. And it's not really Tampa. It's Tom.
Yeah.
And this easily ties into what we discussed earlier. I don't know Tom. It's been a minute since he and I've talked. But I'd assume he's never wanted a Super Bowl more than he'd want this one.
Yeah.
Completely different team, and he's still dealing with that criticism of being a system quarterback. And how could you not? This is. There's not much more to say.
He has something to prove again.
Mm-hmm. Like he if I'm looking at actual people, he's the one that has something to prove.
Yeah, because he can win them, mm-hmm. And he won way too many in New England.
We know Breeze can win them. We know Rodgers can win them. We know Mahomes can win them. We know Josh Allen should win them.
Yeah.
We know Lamar could win them.
And now it's
we know Tannehill, Henry, Titans could win them.
And now it's a Tom. Can you win it somewhere completely different again?
Yeah. So that's kind of the team with the most to prove from, in my eyes, if not Buffalo, is Tampa Bay.
I like it.
And now something I've been looking forward to all day. Because I see your answers, and unless you've changed them, we already disagree. So our last question for the show this week is: there's essentially 5 quarterbacks, the top 5 quarterbacks prospects that should be getting drafted this season. Where do those 5 guys go?
And really, there is a 6th, and no disrespect to North Dakota State, but we did end up leaving you out of this, mm-hmm. Just because I can tell you I know nothing about your quarterback, and I'm not going to assume I know anything about him.
I'm sure I could assign him a team, but that's not how you want this.
No.
So obviously we're talking, Trevor Lawrence from Clemson, Justin Fields, OSU, Zach Wilson, BYU, Kyle Trask, Florida, and Mac Jones in Bama. So why don't we go get the obvious out of the way? Number 1 overall pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
I don't think it'll change. And it shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, who goes second and where do they go?
So my thing here is these are the teams that I think they should go to, not the teams they will go to.
That is absolutely correct. I did
Because
want to make a point of that because obviously, if,
I'm,
for
I'm
example,
sure I am sure Justin Fields will go second to the Jets. I don't agree with him going to the Jets, but I'm sure he will.
I agree with you, but I've also said for weeks, I don't think the Jets should take a quarterback.
That I'm on the same page as you.
That being said, in my list, I do not have the Jets taking a quarterback. So, for my argument's sake, I'm treating this as if these people draft who I tell them to.
Yeah. So I have a list of teams that I think need a quarterback or could use a quarterback. Jacksonville is obvious. I would say the Falcons are getting there because I'm sure Matt Ryan is getting close to retiring. The Lions are on my list. The Panthers, Broncos, Giants, Patriots, Washington, Colts, and Saints. With these 5 quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence is going 1. I don't think Justin Fields will make a case to get above him, even though he theoretically made a case last weekend. If I'm thinking about the playing style of the quarterbacks that we're looking at, and where they should go, Justin Fields is a fairly mobile quarterback. He holds the ball a lot longer than most people do. He takes an average of 2.99 seconds before throwing it. Zach Wilson has a hell of an arm, and in a year, his passing grade went from 78.8 to 94.4. His arm is fairly comparable to Josh Allen, which is impressive. Kyle Trask, his passing grade went up from 66.4 to 91.5 from 2019. The kid can run. Now, Mac Jones is not much of a mover. He doesn't really have the arm strength, but he has very, very good accuracy. He throws at a rate where only 10.4% of his passes are uncatchable. His NFL passer rating would be 142.3 if you were to look at his season this year at Alabama. Again, I mean, we're looking at the top 18 in our draft order being the 18 that are out of the playoffs. And I think the teams that should pick first a quarterback are going to be the Falcons, the Panthers, the Broncos, and Washington. I want the Lions to. They're not going to. I didn't even bother putting a quarterback on that list because I know the Lions, and they're going to either pick a random cornerback or they're going to pick a wide receiver again.
Which, to be fair, I'm not opposed to taking a wide receiver as that.
I'm not opposed to a wide receiver because they could use it.
Yeah.
Because with Stafford, Stafford's a good quarterback. Stafford's an elite quarterback. I just would love to see him go somewhere else to succeed where he can't with the Lions. That is neither here nor there. I think Zach Wilson goes to the Falcons. I think Justin Fields goes to the Panthers. I think Fields is your best quarterback that can sort of feel like a Cam Newton where you felt like you were doing something again. Okay. Even though the Panthers are not in a Cam Newton mindset by any stretch of the imagination. I can see Kyle Trask going to the Broncos, and I can see Mac Jones going to Washington. I hope he doesn't go to Washington because I want Alex Smith to play more, but I can see him going there.
So I'm going to start in reverse because I also have Mac Jones going to Washington. And my thing is, since I see Mac Jones in a position of a Jalen Hurts or a Jordan Love, is I want Alex Smith to play more. I think Alex Smith will play more next season. I expect Mac to sit for the majority of the season behind Alex Smith to learn. Because if there was if there was 5 quarterbacks I could learn from, one of them is Alex Smith, hands down.
Yep. I think Mac Jones and Kyle Trask are going to be your ones that are likely to sit and learn for a little bit before they see the field.
I
I could
disagree.
see.
I disagree on Kyle Trask. And the reason why is because I have him going to Carolina.
Okay.
And if he's sitting behind Bridgewater,
Touche.
the only quarterback I'll accept Trask to sit behind for a little while is Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
If they somehow get Fitzpatrick in Carolina, then sure. Or hell, send Ryan Finley over there. He looked good. But nonetheless, I've Kyle Trask going to Carolina. I have Justin Fields as the second quarterback going. I'm going to the Falcons as well.
Okay.
Because we are reaching, I think, the end of Matt Ryan's tenure with the Falcons. I'm not necessarily saying he's going to be done as a player. But I think his time with Atlanta is coming up in the next 2 or 3 seasons. I see him falling into an Eli Manning, Daniel Jones routine.
Gotcha.
And then I have Zach Wilson come to the Lions.
Interesting.
I think I wouldn't be shocked if the Lions don't take a quarterback. But I
would love to see him come to Detroit.
I would not be shocked if they do take a quarterback. All the same.
He is the closest comparison to Stafford, who I would love to see a quarterback like Stafford come into Detroit. I just want to see Stafford actually go to a team that will utilize him properly and get him the necessary accoutrements.
I mean, I said 2 or so weeks ago when we had Ben on, if Carolina didn't take a quarterback, I could see Stafford doing well in Carolina.
Yeah.
That being said, if maybe Carolina figures out something, maybe second, third round, hell, maybe second round, they take the North Dakota kid.
Yeah, I mean, so in the projections, he is the 4th best quarterback. He is just behind Zach Wilson, because the top 4 are Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, and then our North Dakota quarterback that I can't remember his name, and that is bad because I looked at it this morning. But I would love. I mean, the problem I see with this is Jacksonville is going to take a quarterback, the Jets are going to take a quarterback, the Falcons are going to take a quarterback, and then the Panthers.
Well, the thing is we don't know the Falcons are going to take a quarterback. They should.
I think they're going to take a quarterback, and I think it's going to end up being Zach Wilson, because Justin Fields is probably going to go second.
The only and that was something I put in my notes here. If Zach Wilson's available when the Lions take their pick, then they take him.
They should.
If he's not available, like even if Justin Fields is available, I don't think the Lions take Fields.
I think the Lions are looking at a wide receiver from Alabama.
Yeah, I can't recall the kid's name.
He just won the Heisman. I can't think
looks
of
it. Great. I've made it clear I'm not huge on college, so.
No, and I was. Crap. It's gonna bug me.
Nonetheless, I'm not positive the Jets are really going to take a quarterback.
Devonta Smith.
Okay.
That's his name.
Gotcha. I know it looks like the Jets are going to take a quarterback. We've said numerous times it's far too early. Maybe next week when we talk more about Flacco and Darnold, we'll really elaborate more on that. But it's there's no reason for the Jets to really take a quarterback right now.
And honestly, we can even wait until the end of the season, and we can just do an episode just talking about prospects.
We'll have a draft recap, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long show, and people, we don't discriminate. It's been a long show. It is 10:57, about 11 o'clock our time here, January 5th, Tuesday. Awesome wildcard playoffs coming up this weekend. For the runner-up, it's Ricky. I'm Aaron. Follow us, listen to us. Stay beautiful. We'll see you soon.
Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on TikTok. We haven't posted anything on TikTok, but still follow us there at the Runner-Up HQ. Aaron, it's been fun. It's been real. We agreed a lot more than I expected this week. And Thursday's gonna be here sooner than we know.
Looking forward to it.
We're gonna have a good time. See you, man.